Labor Talks, recorded at Chippewa Valley Community Television in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Hello, and welcome to Labor Talks. Today's special guest is Jeff Smith. Jeff is currently working with Citizens Action of Wisconsin. Welcome to Labor Talks, Jeff.
Thanks, Laurie.
It's good to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Well, about me, a lot of people will probably recognize me and know me for my politics and my political career over the past decade or more. But I've been a small businessman in Eau Claire all my life. My father started a business here in Eau Claire in 1954 that I then bought from him when he retired in 1986, and grew that business from a two-man operation that he and I had to having 22 employees at one point. So it's been a real ride for me in this community that I've really been proud of, and I love this community in this area, western Wisconsin, and have spent my whole life here, obviously. But I always felt I needed to do something that would actually leave a legacy and leave something for my children to be proud of. And considering what's been happening in this country politically, I just can't go away. I had a seat in the legislature, lost that seat in 2010, and haven't gone away. I'm just not fading away. There's too many important things to do.
Okay. And now you're working with Citizens Action. Can you tell us the purpose behind Citizens Action of Wisconsin?
Sure. Well, Citizen Action of Wisconsin has been around for a long time. They've been around for decades. They've made their name. More people realize or recognize them for their actions and advocacy for health care reform. So they've been around a long time. They'll hold press conferences. They send someone up to maybe organize groups of citizens to perform actions for whatever reason it would be. They're a social justice, bottom line, they're a social justice organization. But that's been sort of the thing. Every funding comes from foundations, big donors, grants, wherever they can get that funding from. And typically a foundation or a grant is based around a particular issue, a particular project, and they'll put the money into a staff person or an office. We did have that about 10 years ago from Citizen Action in Eau Claire. And then when that project is done, or they figure they've accomplished their mission, the money goes away, and so does that office and that staff. They don't answer to us, they answer to that money. I think that's really important. But Citizen Action has a really good reputation around the state and around the country of being a very nonpartisan, strictly issue advocacy for the greater good.
Okay. And what are the demographics of the group?
Well, the demographics of Citizen Action overall, like I say, it's nonpartisan, it's progressive, and I think that should be a good thing. Progressive is a good word, in the sense that it advocates for lifting people up out of poverty or out of struggling situations in their lives. So that said, I'd say the demographics are typically people who are contributing are people who have real concerns in their own lives, as well as really concerns about society as a whole.
Okay. And what long-term strategies do you see as the most vital for Wisconsin?
Well, long-term strategies are, and maybe I'm going to try to segue into what I'm actually doing here today.
Okay.
And long-term strategies are difficult to accomplish these days because we're so polarized politically. And going back to the fact that usually organizations are funded from money from a long distance away, we aren't accomplishing things as citizens or for our own general good what we feel is important here. So what Citizen Action chose to do is in Milwaukee, they thought they'd experiment with this. They decided to run a 60-day drive for members and create a co-op. So that's owned by the own local and regional members. And
that's the radioactive campaign?
No, that's we'll get to that.
Okay.
But this is the actual cooperative. All right, so they have a citizen action cooperative now in Milwaukee. They did this last year, April to July. They were successful in getting their 200 members. That was the goal. At $20, averaging $20 a month apiece. And now and with that sort of strength in numbers in a cooperative, the organizer that is hired, because they've been able to afford to do that, answers to the members and then follows what the members feel are the highest priorities, which brings me to what they have chosen to big project, as you have just mentioned right now, which is really, really exciting. They've chosen what they call the radioactive. So they just went into a lot of planning, and it kicked off like about a week ago. And in Milwaukee, there's a strong conservative radio presence in Milwaukee, and what this organization has chosen to do, the Cooperative in Milwaukee, which they are their own entity, by the way, they've chosen to counteract that, and they're going to try to be more active with conservative radio, as a matter of fact, to call in, to report what they're saying, make sure that the truth is counteracting maybe sometimes what they say. But they're also going to try to have another drive of members and try to raise enough money to be able to have their own progressive radio, counteracting that as well. Now, that said, I was following I didn't know they were doing radioactive when I started this, but I was following the whole concept overall, and I love the concept. I even like to think of, when President Eisenhower stepped out of office, he warned of the military industrial complex. But he also should have warned of the political industrial complex. And around our politics, we have this industrial, I shouldn't say industrial, but we do have we have this complex around it of money that's controlling our politics. Everybody knows that. Mm-hmm. But I think they don't really understand where the money goes, how it's affecting us. Well, it goes towards, like I said, it goes towards pushing our policies in one direction or another based on where the money comes from. If we have our own local cooperative, if we have our own citizen-owned cooperative that are taking actions towards what we feel is most important to us in our own region, we're taking this into our own hands. So I was interested in the idea. I contacted Citizen Action. They were very excited that the possibility of creating a cooperative in western Wisconsin, which they consider to be rural Wisconsin, could actually happen. And we are doing it. We are in day 33 of a 60-day drive. I have 27 days left as the time that we're speaking today. And we are close to 130 members signed up.
And your goal is 200.
Our goal is 200, and I need your help. And I'm sure that as we progress here, we'll also give you some information of where to contact me and how to do that. But I would also ask to be contacted to speak to groups about what we're doing. And I'd love to address questions as well in person. So,
especially the progressive groups, where hopefully you will be fighting for those same progressive issues that they are.
Particularly, certainly. And in fact, I'm speaking to a group in a few days that wanted to warn me, we're nonpartisan. I said, well, so are we. And that's really important. And I understand that right now, people are feeling like I just had two different conversations the last couple of days like this, that the parties, they feel their only goals are to oppose the other party and have kind of forgotten what the real mission is, and that's for the greater good, and they aren't working together.
And they're not getting anything done or achieved.
But on the other hand, we are not competing with a political party. They have a mission, and I appreciate and admire that mission, and that is to get people elected. So with that said, we just need to organize people to help influence their elected leaders as well as campaigns to talk about what's really important to us.
Okay. And what can we do to help you to get those 200 people and then some? You're not going to stop at 200, are you?
No. I have a personal goal of reaching a higher number than Milwaukee to prove a point too, because and that is an important point that I think really needs to be made, and that is Wisconsin needs rural Wisconsin. Wisconsin cannot operate just on the whims of Milwaukee or Madison.
And we feel that's the way it is sometimes.
Certainly.
Like they don't hear us up here.
You know that. I know that. And you know, whether it be unions, whether it be political party, whether it be any organization, and to some degree, keep going back to what I said about their mission is to get people elected. I understand why that happens, because that's where the density of the population is. That's where voters are. That the most number they can affect in most economical way. But nothing's going to happen in this state in a positive fashion without rural Wisconsin making it happen. I am honestly believe that. I know it to be true, and the reason we are in the mess we are, that some of us believe we are in, going in the wrong direction, is partly because we've ignored that fact for a long time.
Well, and when we all bus to Madison for the rallies down there, I'm sure those buses weren't coming from Madison. There were buses coming from across the state, and to politicians, those might have seemed that we were coming from out of state.
Yeah. Right.
But we weren't. We were coming from right here. It's just, like you said, the rural part of it.
Yeah.
But continue explaining what we can do to help you to achieve your goals.
Well, it's simply a matter of people contacting me with some interest, helping me find other people who may not hear this broadcast, may not hear me in person, may not know what this is all about. It's not an easy thing to explain, I'll tell you that right now. I've had members who come back to me and said, you know, I've tried, but I just can't seem to explain to people what this is about. My wife will even say, well, Jeff, once this starts, what are you going to be doing? Because, by the way, I am going to, at least starting out, I am the organizer for this cooperative. And my answer is, I'm going to be doing whatever the members want me to do. For instance, in Milwaukee, short-term project, they have coordinated and operated with the county and the city and convinced them to give bus passes to people to be able to go get their IDs.
So they can vote.
So they can vote. You know, those are simple projects, but you'll never get a statewide or a national organization to do things like that, or even the radioactive program, right? Because that's not big enough, that's localized. We can do those sorts of things. We can influence people. We want to influence people, and I mean people by meaning people who make policy about living wage. To me, that's a huge issue, and it's a huge issue with people members I've talked to, with organizations I'm working with as well. We have partners that just getting people to understand what that means. That's the general public. But then working with policymakers, whether it be at the county level or the city level or the state level, and help them to understand how it positively affects families and positively affects our economy if everyone's making a living wage that deserves a living wage.
When you get your 200 plus, are you going to develop some type of a planning committee or a steering committee? Explain what you see as the steps forward.
That's right. So in Milwaukee's cooperative, which we will begin because we will not have our own constitution, so to speak, built yet. We'll start with theirs. They've already been through this a little bit and learned some things. One of the things right away will be to establish they're using 15 as a number. I think it's a fine number, a 15-member steering committee. And that steering committee will be elected by the 200 plus members that we have. It's of course going to be a challenge to try to bring everyone together at one place at one time. And so we'll come up with other methods, online, email, as
Skype,
well as
different ways.
Yep, as well as in person to try to make that happen. Think of this as like an electric cooperative, and having your annual meeting, electing your board, and then moving on from there. And so then the steering committee will direct the organizer. But we will also be collecting priorities and information and concerns from all of our members, and then bringing this together. And that's what brought about Radioactive in Milwaukee, for instance. But we'll be there'll be, you know, more than one issue we'll be working on. And because we're taking up a larger geographic region, which I'm really excited to be a part of, you know, there might be something different in Barron County, which I have a lot of members in Barron County, or in Buffalo County, or in St. Croix County, than Eau Claire County. And so we will be working, and so to get straight to your answer, or straight an answer to your question, we will be establishing what I would like to think is issue committees around what they choose in all of these places. And then I will be working with each of them to try to determine what would be the best way to approach the particular issue, and that where we can make the biggest impact to make things better. And I always use this as an example as why we need this here too, as compared to Milwaukee always controlling things. I know for a fact that of those 200 plus members, and I think they're up to around 250 now in Milwaukee, that frac sand mining never came up as one of the issues they would be approaching. But I know for a fact
That it would be here.
that it will be probably up there in the top 3 or 5 issues that people will want us to do things about. So a perfect example of why statewide organizations are not going to be as effective as if we are taking matters into our own hands.
And you kind of referred a little bit to the geographical area that you're going to be, that this particular group would be coming from. Can you explain that a little bit more as far as from where to where,
Yeah.
to where to where?
So we're calling ourselves, in fact, when Citizen Action, when I first contacted, they immediate thing was thinking, oh, you want to do Eau Claire, an Eau Claire Cooperative. I says, no. And they said, well, okay, we'll call it the Chippewa Valley Cooperative. I says, no, I want to be Western Wisconsin, because we feel like at least, this half of Wisconsin has its own challenges. Even the fact that we get Minnesota media for a lot of Western Wisconsin and not really having the information that they deserve to have about their own state. So I think we may actually end up with a media program as well. So that said, right now, granted, most of the members probably are coming from Eau Claire, because this is just the larger population base. But I am reaching out as much as I can. Last week, like I said, I was in Barron County. I'm hopefully getting 20 members out of there. We're approaching that number. I'm going to be in St. Croix County sometime soon. Tomorrow, I'm going to be in Menominee. I've been in Buffalo County. We have members. I have a member all the way from Washburn County. So we're basically northwestern quarter of the state right now. And that seems difficult, but you got to start somewhere. And what I'm hoping, and what I, for instance, told the people up in Barron County at Rice Lake the other day, this is the beginning of something that you can then take and start right here. But right now we need to grow from the base larger geographical area, and then take your 20 members that are in that main group and start your own 200 group right here, and over here and over here. This is for, and I can't emphasize enough, this is, again, it's not a political party. It's not competing with the political parties. We are here for the greater good of everybody, and how our schools, rural school, we're actually doing some, by the way, that's another project I'm already working with some people with, Farmers Union particularly.
That's what I was going to suggest.
Yeah, and holding sessions about how rural schools are going to survive. These are important issues here, and that's why we need our own cooperative, owned by our own members, taking actions to support what is important to us.
And again, the issues are different in Superior. When you come to St. Croix County, make sure you let me know so I can be there. Different in La Crosse, different in, especially anybody along that border.
Yep, that's right.
Better. They're like, oh, everybody's like, well, those are bedroom communities. They don't care about the politics of Wisconsin. We do. That's why we still live here. Mm-hmm. But it's something that we're going to need to, like you said, if you have little committees for each of those areas, I think you're going to get a lot more issues addressed.
That's right. That's right.
Than if you just have just the steering committee.
That's right.
So are you thinking that you will route around where your meetings will be, or just keep doing them using the other social medias or things like that to bring them in?
Good question. I am not. I think you cannot beat face to face, no matter what. We'll do as much as we have to do, through email or whatever social media is necessary. But there's nothing like face to face. So I am not adverse to being wherever I need to be at any time, if I'm not already scheduled to be someplace else. But that will be my job to make sure that we schedule those things appropriately, so I can be in all of these places. Not that I'm the important link, but I will be the paid organizer who will help bring everything together and put them on the right path to what they need to be doing and how we're going to accomplish our goals.
Okay. And where can our viewers find information on Citizens Action of Wisconsin?
All right, they can email me. For start with, I will say that at jeff.smith@citizenactionwi.org. And I know that hasn't worked for you, Lori, but I don't know what your email's doing, but that is the email that we're using for Citizen Action. There is a website, and I think when I was told, they're going to display it for you on this program, so you'll be able to use that email that website. If you go to that website, it'll show the countdown, and it'll also give you a short little blurb explanation. But there's also a neat little video if you click on it. It has a state of Wisconsin with dots on it. If you click on that, you'll see a short little video of about a minute and a half that gives you even more reason and motivation to join. And we haven't even really talked about this, and you keep asking me, what can you do to help us? It is established at $200 times $20 a month as making this a viable, sustainable organization. That's a formula. I want to keep that in mind. And I don't want to go too far as to say we'll take a lot less, but I don't want to exclude anyone either who wants to be a part of this, because this is exciting. This is a new way to approach these issues. We can do this. We can do this. But we need to start with that formula. I hope that you're able to contribute $20 a month. You can leave any time. You could actually just, right now, all I need is to get 200 names on a list and come back to you after this 60 days and then set up a program for what you can afford to pay and how and when and how. You can go online at that website, though, and pledge right there. Or again, email me and we can talk further, or lead me to more organizations and persons that would be interested in this sort of endeavor. And we're running out. I shouldn't say running out of time, but it's going by fast. And 27 days left as of this moment, and I need to find another 100 people.
Now, one of the questions that came up, as I'm the secretary of the Greater West Central Area Labor Council, one of the questions that came up there is groups.
Yes.
Have you decided, have you figured out yet about group memberships?
Yes.
And what they can do as a group to be part of Citizens Action?
And in fact, I've suggested with Greater Labor Council that they could sponsor 2 members. I think that's the way to go. That way they have actually 2 people that maybe one might get on the steering committee, or at least they come to meetings, or at least they're part of these other issue committees. So they have real live bodies that are part of this and getting their voice heard. And I have another organization that has already done that, sponsored one of their members. And actually maybe a couple of them have done that. So I'm hoping, and I know that in the next meeting, Greater Wisconsin Labor Council is going to, or Western Wisconsin Labor Council is going to make a decision on that. So I'm hoping that will be the case. I think that's the logical way to do that, is to actually sponsor persons.
And I know that, as you said, Citizens Action is going to be nonpartisan, but progressive. And La Crosse is part of Western Wisconsin. Have you addressed the Western Wisconsin Labor Council down there?
I have not talked to them yet, no.
Because they're very active in the community there, especially when it comes to Workers' Memorial Day. They have a beautiful event that they do, and several other things that they do. So we can get you in contact with
And
Bill.
you should do
down
that.
there.
You should do that. Send me an email.
Okay.
And then
I'll probably call you,
there
Jeff.
you go. Call me, Lori. That's a good idea. I mean, I'm so focused right now on just finding members, and I'm finding them as close to me as possible, and then spreading from there. And I know a lot of people in La Crosse, so hopefully we can get there.
And there's a really wonderful newspaper there called the Union Herald that is always looking for informational articles that they can put in the paper. So I can get you that information as well, because I'm sure Terry Hicks would love to share that
Great.
information.
And one last thing on that $20 a month, if two people come along and say, hey, we can each do 10, well, that's $20, and we would absolutely do that. Or someone says, I'll do 30 to sponsor someone else so that they can do 10. I'm open to all those sorts of ideas.
Excellent. When I was researching Citizens Action, one of the issues that they were involved with, and you mentioned it as well, was healthcare, with the universal healthcare, or the Affordable Care Act. Can you give our viewers any examples of that at all?
Well, and I've been involved somewhat as a volunteer for them over the years too, in that regard, and that is to try to just provide people with information, or help people sign up for the Affordable Care Act, and whatever it entails. And in fact, this is not healthcare related, but an example of how that works is right now it's tax season, right? And so we just did a program last week with Citizen Action about the earned income tax credit. So low-income people need to know that that's available, and there's $3.6 million left on the table in Eau Claire County alone that people aren't collecting because they don't realize it's there.
And we've mentioned it in prior shows too, that the media out there leaves so much out, and the people don't like what they don't understand. So if they can just get the proper information that they need.
Yeah, so that's really based around healthcare. That has been the way they've operated, is getting information to people.
Well, that's today's program. My thanks to our viewing audience and to Jeff, who made today's program possible. My thanks also to the folks working behind our cameras, who not only make this show possible, but give us an outlet for our voices, our progressive voices, our workers' voices. A final note, Labor Talks is on channel 993 twice weekly. You can also use your favorite search engine with keywords Labor Talks or CVC TV, and you can find us online. Thank you for joining us today.
Chippewa Valley Community Television is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, you can contact us by calling 715-839-5067 or on the web at www.cvctv.org.